I was on my way to have breakfast with an old friend I hadn't seen for years, Freddie Blassie, the self-proclaimed king of men. The reason I was having breakfast with Blassie in the first place was because a friend of mine, Jeff Walton, the promoter, had been down in the locker room of the Olympic Auditorium last week interviewing wrestlers. He happened to notice one extremely large man leaning against the wall, laughing hysterically with tears in his eyes. Jeff suddenly realized that the man was Freddie Blassie and invited him out for a beer. Fred explained that he had been watching the David Letterman show and had just seen me get slapped in the floor by Southern heavyweight champion Jerry Lawler, the man who put me in this neck brace. Jeff then mentioned that he was also a friend of mine, and that Fred and I should get together since we were both in town, and that's how this breakfast was arranged.
My Breakfast with Blassie centers on a restaurant-set conversation between comedian, intergender wrestling champion Andy Kaufman, and wrestler-manager Classie Freddie Blassie. This is in the midst of the mainstream angle between Kaufman and legendary Memphis wrestler Jerry the King Lawler. More specifically, this was not long after the infamous appearance of the two on David Letterman.
Let me just clear up one point here. There are a lot of people watching who probably view wrestling as being a show, a display, a demonstration, and this may be as the pinnacle representation of that. Was this thing fixed or rigged? Are you guys really friends? Was it a scam?
No, not at all. I couldn't warm up to this guy. We were cremated together. He is a wimp. That's exactly what he thought. That's what he thought about wrestling. He thinks it's all a big joke, a big fix or whatever. And then you're right. There are a lot of people that think that.
You're nothing but a redneck. And you're just trying to prove a point because I was a Yankee, and I heard this from so many people in Memphis. I was going down there, and because
there are all that stuff that I was. There are a lot of people that think that, David, and he was one of them. Mm-hmm. And I did to Andy exactly what I would like to do to everybody that thinks that way.
You're lucky I didn't sue you.
It was a chance to show him exactly what it's really like.
If there were, would you?
Because let me tell you something. My father said, my manager said, they all said that I had a right. I could have gotten a lawyer and I could have sued you for what you did, and I didn't. And all I want is an apology. Even you asked me last time I was on your show if I was going to have a lawsuit, and I could have sued you. I could have sued you for everything you're worth. Well, I didn't, because I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah. You know what?
What kind of a guy are you?
They cover a wide range of subject matter, as well as deal with some of the customers at nearby tables, as well as Kaufman's partner in crime, Bob Zamuda. Much like with Alias the Champ and the Wrestler, kayfabe is maintained, and to see it put into action with the restaurant setting was quite a sight to behold. This meant that the bad guys had to still be bad guys even when ordering at a restaurant. Here's the Honky Tonk Man in a shoot interview sharing his thoughts on being a heel in a place where food is served.
Years ago, yes, they wanted you to, even if you went into the restaurant, you had to be mean and hateful to the... Why would you want to do that? Be mean and hateful to the person serving you when you know they probably go back to the back and,
Kaufman was still selling the neck injury from the pile driver given to him by Lawler. Interesting from a wrestling history perspective, you have two performers from two different territories in conversation. I believe at this time, Blassie was with the New York-based WWF, while Kaufman was in the Memphis territory owned by Jerry Jarrett. Most of the time, the territories kept to themselves, rarely publicly addressing each other. Blassie is really playing up the heel nature. He insults the pregnant waitress, taking a welfare jab at her. One of the ladies asks him for an autograph, which was a no-no for heels. Positive interactions with fans at the time was not for the bad guys. We learn a lot about Blassie. There's the story of how he got over in Japan back in 1962.
My first tour over there was 1962, and that was right. I was recognized the world's heavyweight wrestling champion in the WWA. Before I went over there was a wrestler, Mike Sharp. He said, Blassie, he said, what are you going to do when you get over there? He says, you can't speak Japanese. They can't understand English. I said, I'll do something. I'll come up with something. And I have my front teeth capped. So I'm window shopping. I love the window shop. I can spend 3 hours in a hardware store picking up all things, looking at them, putting them down, and same way in an automobile accessory place. I can spend, like I say, 3-4 hours with ease. So I happened to see a file laying there, and I went in and I said, I'll buy that file. So he wrapped it up for me, and he took it out. And I saw Mike. I said, this thing here, I said, will make the people recognize me. I don't have to speak Japanese. My work, my wrestling, plus the color that I have and everything, I guarantee you, they'll never forget Blassie. So we got off the plane, landed in Japan. When we did, I started filing my teeth. Well, they just went ape.
There's his long list of injuries.
Because, as you well know, that I've suffered numerous injuries in my profession. That's as far as I can extend both arms.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
They won't go down no further than that, both of them.
Why?
They've been busted so often. 6 knee operations, 4 on the right, 2 on the left. 7th and 11th vertebrae are fused together, every rib on the right side, 5 on the left. Neck has also been broken, fractured skull, brain concussion twice. Nose broken 7 times, every finger on the right side. So, I mean, the list is endless.
There's humor in Blassie not shaking hands with fans because he doesn't know where their hands have been, much like the soap promo cut by Kaufman on Memphis Wrestling. Blassie tells a great story of how he had a close call with the KKK in Mobile, Alabama. He even has a tender moment with Kaufman, encouraging him to continue wrestling despite being pulverized by Lawler. The one problem I have with the film was Bob Zmuda. The scenario was fine enough just with Kaufman and Blassie, but Zmuda added some unneeded gross-out humor. He pulls paper out of his nose, he vomits on the table Kaufman and Blassie are eating at. He feels out of place and is the biggest flaw with an otherwise interesting film. If there was one film I would urge the listener to check out in this episode, it would be My Breakfast with Blassie. You have 2 very entertaining people having an engaging conversation, yet a conversation mildly ruined by Kaufman's partner, Zmuda. This one you can find on YouTube in parts, as well as on Amazon Prime Video and Fandor.